Hey everyone, Scott Zambelli here with Odd Musings, and Brett Pinson will be joining us in the not too distant future here. He's got some chores he's taking care of before he gets in here. So I'm going to jump into our ad reads. But before I do, just today's episode, superhero fatigue. We keep hearing about it. Is that happening, or is it just crappy writing? Are studios turning their backs on their core fans in exchange for trying to broaden their base with other fans who weren't there with them long ago when they needed us? So we're going to get into that a little bit later. What kind of the springboard to this was the news of the Batgirl movie being completely scrapped, even though it's been fully filmed and produced, and the screenings have been so bad. It was determined a tax write-off would make them more money than to allow it to see the light of day. So we'll get into that later, though, when Brett gets on board. But first, let's cover our sponsors. Our first sponsor, longtime sponsor, Lawrenger Family Chiropractic Center, located in Belleville and Dexter, Michigan. They've been a great supporter of Odd Musings ever since the start, and we can't stress enough. They are amazing with what they do. Brett has been a long time patient of theirs for many, many years. He's talked about before. He's had issues. He had an accident long ago and some issues that he goes through, and they do a wonderful job of keeping him up and running. And my daughter also used them as well. So they really do treat you like family. And the nice thing about chiropractic care, and I can't say this enough, with typical traditional medicine, they really focus mainly on the symptoms and don't really get to the core. I can tell you from years of my own personal experience also, it's typically managing symptoms. They just want to keep you on that cycle of prescriptions and drugs and everything else. But with chiropractic care, they try to fix the source of the problem. And your nervous system, your spinal column, all that is so vital and greatly underappreciated by most people on the importance it has to your overall health. So give them a call if you're in Dexter at 734-426-3994, or in Belleville, 734-697-4244. If you're not in those areas, give them a call anyways. They could maybe point you in the right direction. Like most industries, real estate, other industries, it's usually a small industry and people know each other within the industry, and they can refer you to somebody who is in your neck of the woods. Get it? Chiropractic joke. Also, we have Team Titans of Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying experience, we never forget at the core, it's still a people business. And what I want to talk about today is, well, first of all, there's our banner. Whoop, there we are. 586-232-5144 is our phone number. That's Team Titans. It's myself, Scott Zambelli, and Jill Webler. And whatever your real estate questions are, give us a call. But I'm going to do a small little rant here. Just small, promise. Yesterday was primaries in Michigan, and it was election day. And this just drives me crazy. Every single millage proposal on our ballots for Macomb County, at least, every single one for every single city that had a millage passed. And what does that mean? It means an increase to your taxes. We talk to people all the time, and I can tell you this: 100% of everyone we talk to complains about their property taxes being so high. People complain about their rent being so high. Everybody's complaining about the prices being so high. Yet, every election, everybody votes for them across the board. No matter what the millage is, they vote for it. We just voted for a 0.75 millage increase for the next 20 years on our taxes in Macomb Township. And I just want to give you a quick understanding of what this means. This is where the government, both parties, this is a bipartisan thing. They lie to us. They lie. Oh, we're out of money. We're out of money. We're out of money. They are not out of money. I'm going to explain a little bit about how millages work, because I don't think the average person understands. It's like, oh, it's only 75 cents a year your taxes are going up. No, a millage is $1 per $1,000 of your assessed value. This chart here shows Chippewa Valley Schools, Macomb County. Right now, this is my particular district I live in, okay? This is where the scam comes in, where they cry about money. Oh, we have to increase taxes. The average house, well, first of all, the millage rate, if you're a homesteaded, okay, if you're homestead, that means it's your primary residence. You get a reduction in your property tax that you pay. If that's the case, your millage is 32.7701. What that means is you are paying $32.77 per $1,000 of assessed value. Okay. And that breaks down to a couple different components, which there's this other component to it called the ad valorem assessment millage, which is a big scam. We don't even vote on those. The cities can add on top of, but that's a side issue for another day. But we're paying $32.77 per 1,000 if it's your primary residence. If it's not your primary, and this is where you renters get affected. A lot of people who rent thinks, oh, it doesn't affect me. I don't pay property tax, but you do. You pay it through your rent. The average for the millage rate in Macomb Township, Chippewa Valley Schools, it's $50.77 per 1,000 of home value. So that landlord is going to have to add to your rent the amount that they're paying in property taxes to cover that, because since it's not the landlord's primary residence, they have to pay that higher rate. So what does that mean to you? This chart here shows average values. So 2 years ago, that's July 2020, the average house in this area was $286,000. Assessed values are roughly 50% of that. So knock that down. That gets you to $143,000. You divide that number by 1,000, okay, because it's per $1,000 of value, and that gives you 143. You take that 143 and multiply it by the millage rate of $32.77 per 1,000, and you're paying $4,686 in taxes in 2020. Now, never mind the votes that everyone keeps voting in, all these little tiny, oh, it's only 75 cents, it's only 75 cents. It's only $1. It's only at 50 cents. That's how they advertise it. But it's per 1,000. And even if we did zero millage increases, zero, because property values went up from 286 and in the last 2 years to 365, the average value of houses went up $79,000. Those millages are based on the value of your house. So now that same millage, that was a tax increase to you. Without them even touching the millage, your taxes went up from $46.86 a year to $59.80 a year, just under $6,000. That's a $1,300 tax increase you had in 2 years without even voting this stuff in. Never mind, not everyone has to vote yes to everything. So this millage, that 75-cent millage, well, if you're an average house, that's an added $137 per year. So now, in addition to the $1,300 in property tax increases you've had just because of the values going up, you just voted yourself an additional $137. So now we're at over $1,400 in increased property taxes, and everyone's voting this stuff in. So people, stop. We have huge overages in the state of Michigan. They have huge tax surpluses because the values went up, just like with the gas tax for the roads. That's based on a percentage. Sales tax is based on a percentage. Well, prices went up. They are collecting more money than ever, and they keep coming back to us with our handout, and voters keep voting it in. Stop voting it in. This is ridiculous. And just for the quick math, because I didn't do the math for the non-homestead. So if you rent right now, your new rent for an average house in Macomb Township is, let me do the math real quick. Where is it? 365. 65 times 50.77. is woo. That's a lot. Let me go back to that. 182.5. I forgot to divide it in half for the assessed value times 50.77. That's more. So for the average renter, that landlord is paying almost $9,300 in taxes, plus this added millage rate on top of it. So you're at about $9,500 a year just in the property taxes that you, the renter, is going to have to absorb. So anyways, all that just to say, stop falling for this crap that the government keeps saying, how poor they are. They don't have money for schools. One of the millages they just passed, I think it was 2 years ago. They needed all this money for computers for the students. And it's like, oh, the poor students, we need money for computers. It was a 10-year tax. The computers are obsolete in 3 to 5 years. And really 3 years with how these students abuse the computers. They don't last as long. But so in 3 to 5 years from now, they're going to come back and say, oh, it's time to buy new computers. They're not going to tell you still have 7 years left of millages that you're paying on the old computers that aren't even being used yet or anymore. Those are scrapped. They're no good. But they're going to come back and say, we need money for computers. And everyone's going to vote it. And this is the scam that both parties do. So stop falling for it. Just no matter what the millage is, I don't care what the topic is, vote no every time. They got to start being held accountable for the money they collect. Right, Brett?
Yeah, I'm tired of all them hookers and whores out there, man, charging double for what are we talking about?
I just went on my little rant. So the election just happened. I just was covering millages. Every single millage in our county passed.
Yep.
And I did the math, and I'm not going to go through it all again, but just to give you an example, in Macomb Township, the way the millages work, I explained how the calculation works. Yeah, even without voting for millages, because the values of houses went up so much in the last 2 years, the average house in Macomb Township, the property taxes rose from $4,700 to $6,000 a year. And that's just, never mind people always voting for increases in the millages.
Right.
And they come back saying, oh, we're poor, give us more money. It's only 75 cents a year. But when you do the math, this actually comes out to be $137 a year when you do the millage calculation. So I'm just saying, they have overages. Stop falling for the, oh, poor us. Hold the school systems accountable to spend the money they have. Stop asking for more. There you have it.
Well, we didn't have a school one in ours. We just had the library and public service.
Yeah, but even those, I have never met a single person who said, I am so glad I'm paying $6,000 a year in property tax. Everyone complains. Oh my God, this is outrageous. But then they vote for it.
Well, I think that part of it right there is just like I said, if they vote for it, then they shouldn't complain about it. They
don't complain about it.
The thing is, all that stuff is stuff you should know you're getting into from the get-go. In terms of values of houses and your property tax going up just on the property itself, I mean, it's going to be crazy for a while on that end because of the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing is that you could always have your house assessed if you think it's being overtaxed. The problem with that is they may come back and say, oh, no, the value is even higher. So you take the risk there. So it varies. And of course, I live in a manufactured home park. So I don't have technically property taxes, but we have lot rent. But they get assessed based on the value of the entire property. And that comes out of their lot rent. So, and
I covered that too, because with, like, let's say somebody's renting a house. Mm-hmm. Now that landlord, they're paying way more. It's instead of $6,000 a year, they're paying $9,200 a year in taxes on that same house. Well, the renter is going to have to pay that.
Yeah.
And that's where they get you. So even if you rent, these still affect you if you vote yes. Mm-hmm. No one is free.
Yep. So, my thing is if you don't agree with it, you don't vote for it. If you do agree with it, you can't complain about what your taxes are when you voted for that tax.
That's my point. But I've yet to meet one single person who's like, nope, I vote for those and I'm happy to pay my $6,000 a year for my house. Never met one person.
They don't mind paying the the $12.95 for the library, but they don't want to pay the $6,000 for the house.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways,
yeah,
I already did the ad reads. Yep,
go good.
covered
So
Loringer.
I'm still dealing with my knee issue, but they've been taking good care of me. Saw them twice this week. So definitely keep them in mind when you guys need stuff. Getting better. It's stiff and sore, so it makes it a little painful for wandering around and that stuff. As I did this morning, because I went out and did a couple shops this morning. I had one of my great customers contact me last night, so she placed an order, and so I went out and shopped for her. And that's one thing I love about the ship thing is that I have this preferred thing, and I'm hoping they keep that. It's been a good program for the last year and a half, and then I have great, members I've gotten to know and help take care of, and in turn they show their appreciation in a monetary sense. So, and it makes my life a little bit easier for when I have to do things like being in San Diego a couple of weeks, or in a couple of weeks I'm going to be in Colorado Springs, so I can take time off, but I can make the money when I need to. And it's going to be a hot, steamy day out there, so I'm glad I only did a couple this morning because it's already almost 80 on my car, and it's 10 o'clock this morning.
It's humid over here.
Yeah, and someone said, "Oh, is it going to rain today?" I said, "Probably not." I mean, it could. I mean, you could get a pop-up storm because it's so hot, but
our end is saying they're saying they're expecting storms over here later.
Okay. Yeah. They were saying on the news, it wasn't really showing anything on my app right now. It's showing a chance later on. But yeah, that humidity is like 60-70%. And I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind a good solid rain to kind of cool everything off. But problem is we're going to get those crappy rains that'll come real quick and leave and be even more steamier. So,
those ones aren't fun.
Yeah, not too far from me as if you're into
it's now 1,000% humidity.
Yeah. Like, what? And of course, yesterday started here in Wayne County, not too far from my house. The Wayne County Fair is going on, so I was like, "Well, it's too hot today to go over there, but I might try tomorrow because they got a food truck rally going on all week." So,
side note: when it's 100% humidity, shouldn't that be the equivalent of being underwater?
I said, but that's not really humidity. That's something else. So humidity is an air feature where underwater is a completely different version of the element, but
So today's topic is superhero fatigue. You want to just jump into it? The big breaking news story?
Yeah, I was pulling up an article here because there's so many different articles everywhere about this.
Yeah.
And I have my take. I've read a few different ones, and you got the same one I got there, the People one. And it's funny when they first showed some of these images, like her there, so like that, there were people, of course, online right away, the fanboys, that were like criticizing everything about it. I didn't have a problem with it. It's the suits are going to be different. They're going to be what they're going to be. I was waiting to see actually a trailer to see if it was going to be any good. Yeah. They have completed filming. The filming's been done for months, so they're in post right now. But they did a couple test screenings, and my understanding from a couple artists, this was originally meant to go out to HBO Max, so it was not a theatrical release type feature they were going to do. It was supposed to be on HBO Max, and I thought that for months ago because they mentioned that they were going to do stuff on HBO Max and some theatrical stuff, and they were supposed to sort of complement each other, but not necessarily be together. $75 million production, it said, but it went up to $90 million because of all the COVID related stuff, as it says there in the article. But reading into this thing here, I think once it was done, they looked at this and they went, "We can't release this. This is a Last Jedi moment that almost killed Star Wars." And they said, they may not have said it directly like that, but that's my opinion on the reception of it.
So. Well, I think that's it, because here's the thing: they are, according to them, like the spin that I'm reading, Discovery, and I noticed they keep. I have a feeling it's not long before the Warner Brother name is dropped. I think they're converting totally to Discovery, but right now they're calling them Warner Brother Discovery.
Well, they're in the middle of final mergers right now.
Yeah.
It'll be, and in fact, the streaming side, the HBO Max and Discovery Plus, even though they're still trying to sell you Discovery Plus, are supposed to merge by the end of the year.
Yeah, but I think it's more of a Discovery takeover, and I think they're slaughtering anything to do with the former DC universe. But with this one, they was 75 million. They increased the budget to 90, which turns out that was a bad move. But the spin is this: well, we need tax write-offs, so we're gonna scrap it for the tax write-off. But that's code for, at the end of the day, they want whatever is the most money,
right?
So if this was released, it should at least break even. So what this tells me is, along with Brett's theory, is the damage this is going to do to the overall brand and hurt other sales as well. They're better off. The amount of money they're going to get as a tax write-off is far more than what they can possibly make in dollars.
Yeah,
And
I think there were. I without saying this, it's hard to say. I've barely seen the Halle Berry Catwoman, but I'm thinking it was in that vein where she had a better costume. It was more in line of Batgirl here, but story and everything else was falling in line with that, where it was just not cohesive to building a superhero universe for the DC characters, and it's just something story-wise sucks. And again, I don't know the particulars of the story because they kept it under wraps for once.
Yeah.
Without telling us every little nuance, other than the fact that we knew Michael Keaton was supposed to be in it, Brendan Fraser was playing the bad guy, and someone else was going to be in it too.
But what we do know is the people who are making this, they also attempted Batgirl with the TV series, and that was a bomb.
Yeah.
They can't find a way to make her good. And I think part of it is their own worldview is getting in the way of themselves.
Yeah.
And the people who are making executive decisions in Hollywood, and this is for brands across the board. Marvel has been having issues with it lately. Star Wars has had issues. DC, they live in an echo chamber. They only, because of the way cancel culture operates, they only surround themselves with people who think exactly like they do. And in doing so, they think the whole world thinks that way. And then they release these products, and then they're stunned that they bomb. And it's called, diversity of thought is not allowed in these echo chambers. And if they did allow it, they would understand more how the average viewer actually, what they want to see.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I think part of the problem was right from the get-go here. You have two directors on it that did the Bad Boys for Life movie. So they're
which weren't great.
It was not really disappointing. So they think they're hip. I've never really heard of them before that. So they were kind of the hip thing for a minute there. But it was written by Christina Hodson. She did Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey as a television series, Birds of Prey, the movie that became the Harley Quinn type movie, it didn't play out either. And then Kristen Burr, who was on Cruella, was producing it. And Cruella wasn't bad, but being a producer doesn't necessarily mean either thing on that. So I mean, that's I think that's part of where the start was. They were going with this hip thing in there, and they're coming and going, oh, we're going to do this great thing, we're going to revolutionize it, stuff like that. They talked to, and there's a People article too, they talked to what's her name, where's she at? From the last time Batgirl was actually played on TV or in movies, and that was Silverstone, Alicia Silverstone. And she got just trashed. She said she even quit acting for a while until it calmed down. And this was in the 90s. This is pre-internet.
Now, to be fair to her, this goes back to Warner Brothers. They like to hire the trendy it person. Alicia Silverstone was the it person at the time, but no one really felt she was good as a good casting choice for Batgirl. But the movie as a whole was just bad. That was after Tim Burton.
Yeah, that was Batman and Robin. I think that was the last one.
Was that the Clooney?
That was let me see here. I think it was
Clooney and Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, Chris O'Donnell was in it, but I think he did two of them, didn't he?
Was he also with Val?
Or no, maybe it was just the one. No, it was Clooney, so it's just the one. Yeah, that's the one with Schwartz. They brought in everybody. They had Schwarzenegger, Uma Thurman. They had Alicia Silverstone.
They had Bane,
Chris O'Donnell, George Clooney. I mean, they had everything they could throw into this thing.
Yeah, it was just overkill.
Yeah, it was like, we want everything in it. And it was like, oh my gosh. I mean, if you look at the I just pulled it up. You've got, just a ton of actors. I mean, Vivica Fox was getting to be known that she played Ms. B. Haven. You had Elle McPherson in it because she was a hot supermodel at the time. Yeah, they had Jeep Swenson played Bane. They tried to throw Bane and it didn't work right. They had Eric Lloyd was young Bruce Wayne at the time. And then, but it's like, it was like they tried to do this whole Batman and Robin thing with throwing in Batgirl, and it just didn't work. I mean, the one, Mr. Freeze, is Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Freeze.
And keep in mind too, this was when Schwarzenegger was in his prime. They cast one of the world's most famous bodybuilders and put him in a role where his whole body is covered and in armor.
Yeah.
And it's like, why wouldn't you cast him in a role where you could make use of his physique as a superhero type villain?
Yeah. Yeah. Chris O'Donnell was with Val Kilmer. I had to pull that up too because I thought he was. Both of them, both Batman Forever and then the Batman and Robin were done by Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
And he's like over the top neon, just, went
It was
crazy with
bad.
it. The stories were not good. I saw all those in the theaters and I've really never seen them since.
It was the
It was the 90s.
The problem with the 90s was this, though. They did it to RoboCop. They did it to the Batman series. They appealed to an adult audience. They did a great job. And then they decided we have to make it for kids and cartoony. And like RoboCop was the first release was rated X. It was so violent. They had to take out parts to make it down to an R rating. And then RoboCop 2 and 3 were very cartoony in how they made them. And then they started coming out with RoboCop cartoons and toys. And they killed the brand almost by doing this. And this is what they did here is they started making it like a Saturday morning cartoon instead of treating it like a serious product.
Yeah, and that's where they really lost it because you had the Tim Burton one had a little element of the campiness, not much, just a little bit with being around the Joker, but
with a touch of horror. Like he does a great job of this stylized horror that's slightly cartoonish, but not childish.
Right, and you had Keaton playing it straight, which everybody thought he played as a comedian. No, he played it straight, and that's why it worked so well. He showed that as Bruce Wayne, he could play it straight, and then as Batman, play it straight. Did the same thing with the second one, with Batman Returns. It still he had a little of the campiness with the Penguin, but that was even more horror. I mean, come on, who's got all these giant penguins coming at you with rockets and stuff? That seems a little campy, but fits what's going on with Batman and that type thing. But then from there, it was just all about, they was like, oh, we got to be for kids. Batman the Animated Series was big. That's where they should have just left the kids stuff alone. Because even the Batman Animated Series was way better than the next two movies because they were taking it seriously. It wasn't just for kids. It was a good written story. They just didn't have it as violent as it could have been.
So for Warner Brothers and DC as a whole, we've got this merger. There's a few things happening. We got the merger taking place. Discovery wants to take their product in a new direction, is what it seems like. I really do hope they just implode the entire DC universe and start over. Now, with that said, I really hope Henry Cavill stays as Superman because I can't picture anyone being better than him in our modern day. But he just needs better writing. But him as Superman, he is the definitive Superman in my mind. And they just got to give him the right script and right movie. But Arrowverse is going away. That's about to end. All these things are ending. And I hope DC has a great product for the more mature audience. And they need to study The Boys and what The Boys is doing and go more in that direction, I feel. They don't have to go as vulgar as The Boys, but look at how they treat their characters and tell their stories and make it more real world. You can do that with DC and really make it like amazing.
Yeah.
I think.
Now, another thing along with the Batgirl being scrapped Warner Bros., they scrapped the next Scoob movie, SCOOB with exclamation point. First one wasn't bad. They had brought in Dynamite and Blue Falcon. And you kind of got the origin of Scooby-Doo and stuff like that. And it was a fun movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Definitely see it. But they were coming out with this Scoob Holiday Haunt, and it was going to follow 10-year-old Shaggy and the gang. So they were going back to them being younger after they'd already aged them in the cartoon they did prior to this. And it sounds to me like they were trying to do like a young, Scooby-Doo based on like the cartoon that it had Scooby. And that got shelved as well. Now, part of this too is this. I really think the Batgirl tested badly. I think the Scoob, I'm not sure in the production where it was, because that's animated. And if it wasn't in the full animation parts, they probably scrapped it before it went to that just because of financials and stuff like that. Because we're also seeing with the merger, because you talk about that merger. Here's what is happening is you now have people that were in charge of the studios out. New people are in. Their names are not attached to any of these movies and TV shows.
Right.
They are not getting paid residuals on that. This is what happened 10, 20 years ago now with Firefly. Firefly got canceled for one reason and one reason only. they had a complete change, and everybody in charge of Fox, and all those people said we're not getting paid on these, and they canceled a bunch of stuff that year, except for the high paying ones they knew they had to keep, and they brought in all new stuff. That's why they went to Whedon and said, "Well, we're canceling Firefly, but create something new." So created the next one. I forget what it was. Only lasted 2 seasons because then they could get paid on it as well as executive producers.
Right.
And that's where a lot of this, it really is financial. It's not on how much the studio can make, but how much they can make individually in their pockets.
Yeah. And this goes back to the topic of superhero fatigue. This is a business decision by the people in charge. They're not going to, because if they're in charge and anything released moving forward, their names are, even if they haven't been involved, they're going to be blamed. Mm-hmm. And they want control over the success or failure. So they're going to want to redo the movies with people they trust, directors they trust, actors they trust. They're not going to want to stake their own reputation on something that hasn't been doing well. I mean, you look at the DC universe, it's a disaster. I mean, everything, poor Michael Keaton, he keeps trying to come back as Batman and everything's getting canceled.
I mean, we've got the issue with the Flash movie coming out. You mentioned about this. Yeah, you mentioned the Flash TV series. They announced 9 episodes or something like that next year for this 9th or 13. I forget what it is, and it's done. So they're wrapping everything up there. But they lost me years ago because too much time travel. We've talked about that. You can go back and listen to previous Odd Musings on that stuff. But I think part of it too is, and this is the problem they had in the 90s, was in the early 2000s, they were canceling all the animated shows and TV show stuff around superheroes when movies were coming out. Mm-hmm. With the Flash movie coming out, I expected them to cancel the series anyways. Now it's run its course. I think ratings are down. The Arrowverse is done. Again, they kind of killed that when they started when they took away the Suicide Squad with Arrow, and then everything else just kind of
Arrow. They really stole a lot of steam, and then with no real story in its place because how quickly they canceled the Suicide. That storyline was really building up so well too. Mm-hmm. It became the Felicity show. And it was all about which superhero was Felicity sleeping with next. And they completely ruined the brand.
Yeah, because they had no direction after that. They had a good direction for a couple of years planned, and then they got pulled out from under. Because literally it was like, here, they're dealing with this, and then it literally just stopped.
Yep. Then they had Supergirl come out. First season, phenomenal.
Yep.
Second season, they went all woke. And it became so over the top. And it was bad, and viewers just tuned out
and went from CBS to the CW. So it was good on CBS. CW, like I said, went woke. But it was also, I tell people this, is like, I didn't care that they wanted to have a lesbian characters in there. I didn't need a whole fall season of every episode. They were talking about the upcoming, and it was taking forever to get to it, lesbian wedding shower. And that was the term they used in the series. Yeah. And I'm like, fine. You're having a lesbian wedding shower. No, it's a wedding shower. It doesn't matter.
It was like every 4th sentence they had to make sure to say the word lesbian.
Yes.
And it's like, first of all, if this was real, I don't hear them talking that way, where they use the word every 3rd or 4th sentence.
Every
like they would just say wedding. They wouldn't. Yeah. I'm going to have my lesbian wedding. No, they would just say my wedding. Like
every same-sex couple that's female I know doesn't walk around going, we're having lesbian wedding shower. We're having lesbian brunch. We're having lesbian. No, they don't. They just live their lives and just say, hey, we're getting married.
We're having lesbian card game night.
Yeah. Agree with it or not, we're just getting married, and that's the whole thing. Yeah, and I was like, I just heard
it was so bad.
I finally got to the point I had to shut it off. I was like, because it was like, it's a 44-minute show before commercials are added in. So 60 minutes. It'd be 3/4 of the way through the show, and then finally Supergirl was like, "Oh, here's a problem. Let me go solve it." Beep, 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 beep. How's the lesbian wedding shower? I'm like, come on.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
They ruined it.
Yeah,
is what happened. They had a great start and just went all crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and the boys. I mean, the boys has been really good. Umbrella Academy, I thought, was really good this year. Umbrella Academy dealt with a character change based on the actor's change in real life. They did it in a 10-minute scene, and that was it.
No, I thought they handled it very well too.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job with how they handled that. And like the boys you mentioned, the boys, what's great about the boys is they offend everybody.
Yeah.
Equally. They don't care. And that's what the cancel culture doesn't understand. When they get offended, they want it removed.
Yeah.
We can handle our side being mocked. We're just saying do it equally.
Yeah.
And Boys does that. They 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 insult everybody,
Well,
and which
I mean,
makes it
they've
good.
had everything from a character that's supposed to be a female version of Trump. They've had the conservatives, they've had the Democrats versions, they've had everything in there, and they make fun of everybody.
They
And then
do.
they also made fun of the Marvel universe, by the guy
Oh
that
yeah.
could shrink all the way down. And
That was a preview of how Kang dies.
yeah,
But
but and that's the whole thing. But
yeah,
I think the whole our topic today being the superhero fatigue. It's more than just a little bit we've
yeah,
talked about. Look at the movies that have been released this year, and nothing's really sticking.
yeah.
And
There's only been a handful. Like Spider-Man, people loved.
yes,
Um, I think overall they did a good story, a good script. Yes, there was a lot of nostalgia for people and warm fuzzy feelings, but they told it in a way where they managed to make every villain. They worked in the villains very well. They worked in the storyline very well, and
Mhm.
even the twist where it's like, oh, in a way, this was our Tom Holland origin story
Right.
without realizing it. Like they did such a masterful job of combining all the elements into a really good story. Then you go into the Eternals. It doesn't even fit with the overall Marvel universe. We still have this giant thing sticking out of the earth. Where is it? Nobody
Yeah,
like.
that was and that's something that it's kind of talked about. We've had slight disagreements, nothing bad on this one. It's just we agree different ways on how they're doing things. I've treated a lot of these movies, except for the Eternals, as more one-shot stories, and they don't necessarily have to lead into the next thing. But the Eternals was setting up too much of this is the world-changing thing, and then nothing. And I think that's
Yeah.
why it did 164
Well,
million lifetime. That was it.
I think we were getting into the multiverse stuff.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling because they now announced like this whole arc going multiple phases is going to be called the multiverse saga.
Yeah.
I really think they're going to be a lot of the stuff that went wrong in phase 4. They're going to use the multiverse to erase.
Yes.
And they're going to, I think they got woken up from being woke. They were trying certain things. They like to be in their echo chamber and hire their friends and they Watiti, who destroyed Love and Thunder. They're going to fix those things. I think moving forward, there's too much money to ignore.
Yeah.
And they're gonna fix it. I think, and it's obvious Kang is definitely becoming the focal point, which really had to.
Well, it's obvious they announced it.
Yeah, well, they launched Phase 4 so well with the Loki series.
Yeah.
Had they just stayed on that track, Phase 4 would have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and part of it was because of COVID. To be fair to Marvel, production, everything got forced to be made at the same time. And so they didn't have time to digest what's working, what's not. Because while phases 1 through 3 were a masterpiece, it wasn't planned that way from the start. They made adjustments as they went. They threw in stuff, took stuff out.
Well, phase 1 was not even really phase 1. It became phase 1 when they decided to do the Avengers movie and bookend it, basically. But then they realized,
to be fair, they didn't even know if it would survive past the first Iron Man movie.
Right. And really, they had in that
Hulk
phase
and Iron Man 1.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like what phase 1 is. I mean, you've basically got 2 Iron Man movies: Incredible Hulk, Thor, Captain America, and Avengers. That's it. And originally they were releasing like Iron Man, then Iron Man 2, and the Incredible Hulk, that just to kind of build something around it. And they were like, "Hey, we got something." So they announced Captain America and gave it the first Avenger as the subtitle, leading it into the Avengers, because they knew they had everything there to just go right into an Avengers movie.
Yeah, and then they slipped in the end credit scene, which was just an Easter egg to the hardcore fans of Thanos.
Yep.
And they saw the reaction, and they were smart enough to pivot and say, you know what? There's a magic that happened here. We're going to we have our storyline we're going to tell, but we're going to incorporate this and merge it. And phase 2 was phenomenal. And then they slowly had this.
With phase 2, though, it didn't get initial receipt. You got to think about Iron Man 3 was received as just okay. Everybody was disappointed when he destroyed all the suits at the end. Like,
it was Winter Soldier, where Winter Soldier, I think, was the turning point.
Right, because after Iron Man 3, you had Thor: Dark World, and that one I like better now because it fits better now than then, because there's been things that have happened that actually make more sense. And then
Dark World,
for Dark World, and then Captain America: Winter Soldier is where it really took off from there. And then
I feel like Winter Soldier was the movie where Marvel found their voice. You know,
yeah,
like even with TV series, usually when you go back and watch the first season, you kind of cringe on any show that you love because they didn't quite find the voice yet.
yeah,
And then season 2 comes around and the actors, the chemistries are and I feel like Winter Soldier was where Marvel figured it out. It's
yeah.
like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Right, and it allowed them to kind of add more stuff to the whole overall story they were doing. Because then they threw in Guardians of the Galaxy, which was designed to help bring the Thanos stuff into more of the Marvel stuff, as because they were adding in the Power Stone or different
Yeah.
stones and that. So that's where they really changed. Because the Cosmic Cube was just a Cosmic Cube, and that's
Yeah.
where it became part of the Infinity Stones. And then of course you had the Avengers: Age of Ultron that had to bring in a few more things, which initially had a lot of, again, clap back from some of the fans, but now when you go back and watch it, I really think it fits better because they had so much within it that was really the whole movie was almost an Easter egg. So
well, and the thing with what fans need to realize is the way Marvel is releasing, you can't really judge them as a movie. You have to judge them as a high-end TV series. In any TV series, you will have episodes where you have to reposition the pieces on the board. So that the remainder of the story makes sense. And that's what Age of Ultron is they were now pivoting to the final act. And
yeah,
they
it was all setting up the phase 3, which phase 3 was a long phase. It was 3 years. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 movies.
Yeah.
So so that was phase 3 was half of the movies for the entire Infinity Saga, basically, that they ended up doing.
Yeah. So Age of Ultron was a necessary piece in making the bridge from phase 2, get everybody in the position and mindset they need to be. So when phase 3 started, everyone was there. And I think that's why, looking back, Age of Ultron is a much better movie because you can now, knowing the overall story, you can picture where its piece is in that story. Whereas at the time, you're like, oh, that wasn't quite what I expected.
Yeah, what I found, I don't know if you did the same way. I've rewatched all of them prior to Endgame, but I watched them in the order of time release, not their actual releases. It was kind of how they fit in a chronological order.
The story
and,
order. And it's awesome when you watch it.
You watch it like that, it really, I mean, I'm like, wow, they really were. Where, I mean, definitely the stuff this past year, I still like a lot of it as there's some stuff in there, but they're going to drop some things, fix others. But a lot of it was, here's a bunch of one shots. Because again, Feige said they weren't going to do like Avengers movies anymore and things like that. Well, that's changed. They realized they got to have a direct goal to everything. They can't just say we're going to throw whatever out there and see what sticks and go that for 5 years, because it's already showing. I mean, I pulled up box office stuff. Thor: Love and Thunder lifetime is over 300 million, but half of that was the opening weekend, and we're already hitting a month later, so it's stalling. Doctor Strange opened at just under 200 million, 187. It's at 411. That's stalled, of course, because it's out on Blu-ray and on streaming now too. And then Spider-Man: No Way Home. That one comes out in December, and that one's done 804 million. Now, I think that one, if it hadn't been, there was still a little COVID restriction going on in December, and people were still not coming to the theater, but still a lot came out. If none of that was going on, that movie would have been well over $1 billion.
I agree.
In that, and then the month before with the Eternals, couldn't even hit 200 million, 164 million. I mean, in October, Venom: Let There Be Carnage did over 200 million. Right. Shang-Chi, which nobody had any clue what that was about, did over 200 million.
Yeah. So and it's not like Thor: Love and Thunder. It had an amazing opening weekend because people aren't fatigued by superhero movies. They're still hungry for good superhero movies. And opening weekend totals, people will celebrate, but that's really an indication of the power of the previous movies opening weekend. It's the anticipation. People want to see Thor again. Yeah. But it's the following weeks that tell you if it's good, because superhero fans will watch a movie 2, 4, 8, 10 times if they love the movie. And Thor did not produce those. I mean, there were some people who saw it multiple times, don't get me wrong. But I'm sorry, even the people who love it, the big praise is we love the screaming goats. The screaming goats, if that's the highlight of the movie failed.
Yeah.
That was a gimmick.
There was a lot of stuff I found funny. I enjoyed the movie, but I didn't want to see it. I wasn't in the mood to go see it again.
Yeah.
And I think it is a big tell on it. And I've said that. I did enjoy it. I went in knowing, I kind of went in what to expect, but I knew it was something I probably wouldn't see again until it comes out on streaming or even Blu-ray. where Ragnarok,
I can
I
still
saw,
watch Ragnarok
I
over
watched
and
it on
over.
when it opened on a Thursday night. Scott and I both saw it at different locations.
Yep.
The next day, we were in Ohio at
Akron.
Akron Comic Con, and we didn't tell our friends at Team S24 we'd already seen it, so we went and saw it with them.
And then we got in trouble
And he
because
got yelled at by Lisa. And Lisa still gives us crap about that. But it was like, I told her, I said, well, we didn't spoil it for you. And I wanted to see it again because I enjoyed it so much the day before.
To this day, I can watch Ragnarok all the time.
That's of the Thor movies. That's the one I go to all the time. I go to that over a lot of other ones. It was fun. Had a good story. I liked, like I said, Love and Thunder. It was fine, but it's not something I'm going to want to revisit a ton.
Yeah.
Down the road, I'll probably watch it again. There's some things I liked about it, but it was, again, showed that during COVID, they were trying to figure out what to do. So they started doing all these movies and that come out, and you can see in the box office how that ran. And that's where we're at right now is these box office movies aren't, and they're also doing things that changed. It's like,
even,
Oh, go ahead.
No, even like the Loki series. When Loki season 2 is about to come out, I'm going to go back and rewatch that one. I thoroughly enjoyed that season. Moon Knight, I was okay with Moon Knight, but I'll never watch it again. Miss Marvel, I skipped. She-Hulk, I'll probably skip. It's.
I watched an episode of Ms. Marvel. It's definitely for the teens. They had a setup at San Diego, and they had a thing set where you could actually sit on like the street lamp, like you're her, and take a picture. So it was a free picture. I didn't do that. But really was no much other stuff. They had a couple banners somewhere here and there.
Yeah.
It was okay. I mean, I might go back and watch another episode too. It didn't grab me to want to keep watching it where Loki did. I was wholly disappointed with What If, but What If fits more into the Doctor Strange.
The problem was the name. They shouldn't have called it What If.
Yeah, and they're doing a What If season 2, and I'm going, okay, which one are we going to tie this into?
It's just multiverse. Call it the multiverse.
Yeah. And that'd be a multiverse anthology. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
WandaVision, definitely got a lot of flack at first, but as it moved through, you understood what they were going to. And I did enjoy that. But
the problem with WandaVision is the whole character arc I felt was completely dismantled through Multiverse of Madness. Like,
yes,
it made no sense. Like, it's as if those series never happened the way they had her in there. So and now it's setting up this Agatha Harkness series, which I have no interest in. Like, I don't understand why she has a lead.
That one I'm interested in as a series. I would not want to do a movie, but I'm wondering if with that they're gonna be able to introduce more within the mystical arts and magical stuff that Marvel has, and that go in a different direction with some different things down the road. So I don't know what that would do. I really enjoyed Catherine Hahn's portrayal of her. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that
I thought the character was so annoying.
Oh, it was meant to be, though. She was meant to be, but when she came out and it was Agatha all the time, it was like, okay, that makes sense.
And meanwhile, the fans are like, "It's Mephisto everywhere, Mephisto everywhere."
Yeah, we've not seen
yet to see
once.
him in anything.
Yeah, Falcon Winter Soldier, I enjoyed that a lot. They've got a movie coming out in the next couple phases.
My hope is Mephisto doesn't appear anywhere because he's one of my favorite all-time villains, and I really hope they allow the Kang story to develop and happen. And then whenever that ends, let Mephisto be the big bad for the next future movies down the road. That would be awesome because that was an awesome storyline they did. Was he part of Secret Wars? Was that the Secret Wars thing he was in? But like he was trying to take over everything and he was on the throne. And I can't remember if that was Secret Wars or a different title of a crossover event, but it was through all the different books.
I know Mephisto, he actually was what used to kind of change Spider-Man in the comics for a while there. Where nobody knew it. He was no longer married to Mary Jane. It was kind of a reboot with that. Things like that. So it's been a lot of speculation on him on all that stuff. I was pulling him up here too. But I was looking at like these next phases, and we got a lot of different stuff coming up, but again, I think some of the stuff they're doing because it's already been in production, and they'll see how they go. Now, of course, with the Agatha one, it's called Coven of Chaos. That's what I'm thinking we're going to see something more with the witches and that, and tie that in there, and that may also help lead into more of the multiverse stuff. But with Kang, season or phase 6 is basically right now just 3 things. It's going to be Fantastic Four, and then Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to see Kang popping in through a lot of this stuff here, I'm sure.
There's this is
So,
the series I was thinking. So Mephisto had his own series, but each issue was him versus the Fantastic Four versus like Spider-Man versus,
okay.
so each issue he versed a different set of heroes. And I absolutely love that series, and that would make a great crossover storyline for future Marvel movies. So hopefully, that's my hope. I absolutely love that series.
Yeah, he was Secret Wars 2 is what he was part of, Mephisto was. So,
2, that's right, the second
yeah.
one.
So, but yeah, it's a great character that I hope they don't bring out right now.
Right. Let Kang be. Look, there's such, since they're making this a multiverse saga, Kang is the perfect villain. Let him have the spotlight and develop him from there. Hopefully, they don't do to him what they did to Gore in Thor. He was a perfect villain to have for a 3-movie arc against Thor, and they could have really developed that really well.
Yeah,
And
I think
that
a lot of
character
that
would
was
have paired with Kang really well too. But
yeah, I think a lot of that was it was a character that probably Feige on them said, nobody's gonna care about that. Nobody knows who it is. It's a good villain, but it's not a villain that's been popular. So just do what you want. We don't care. And so they did. And now
Bale
we're
just
going,
did an amazing job.
yeah. And they're like, oh, I bet they're kicking themselves now, thinking, okay, we screwed up there.
Plus, Christian Bale probably would only sign a 1-movie deal, probably, or something.
Most likely, he's not going to want to keep an ongoing thing going. He's kind of like after his run on the Batman movies.
Yeah,
he's kind of like, he likes doing one shots and different things and have his optional. But it's definitely a character that if they had developed it right or got him to it was something they could deal with throughout a few different movies here and there. It would have been something fun to see with heading towards like even a Fantastic Four and with that movie and that. So, but there's a lot of these, like talk about the superhero fatigue. You look at stuff that's been working. The Boys has been working really good.
Yeah. Now, ones that haven't is Jupiter's Legacy. That was part of the Millarverse, which that I don't think had anything to do with superhero fatigue. I don't think the studio gave it time. They released it at a time where there were a number of huge projects all coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
And it got canceled. It was in a lot of viewers' rotations, but they didn't watch it opening week because of all the other competition. And people started watching going, this was good. Why did they cancel it?
Yeah, it was a busy week. And I remember when that came out because I watched it, but there was like 5 or 6 other things that are hitting. A ton of stuff are hitting stream because it was all like we were finally getting the everything been opened up again to where we were finally getting stuff, all this new stuff we've been waiting on. And this was all supposed to be part of the Millar World stuff that they bought.
And I'm trying to look it up right now and see if there's any plans because like they paid a lot of money for that.
Yeah.
And we've heard nothing. Oh, here we go. What's this? Mark Millar announces Nemesis sequel, but that's the comics. What's happening on the production side?
So here we go. This is I found something from April. Every Millar World movie and series coming soon to that. So right now you have Jupiter's Legacy. They're supposed to do a now spin-off from that, is what they announced at one point.
What's the date of that article?
This one is April 25th of this year.
Okay, so semi-recent.
Yep. The Kingsman was also released by 20th Century Fox. It was supposed to have a TV project also in development on that. Super Crooks is scheduled to come out in November, but it's going to be an anime. You also have American Jesus, and that's in development as a TV series.
Okay.
That's another one of his there. It began filming in April in Mexico, so that is in production now. Basically, if you're not familiar with it, the comic series is about Jesus Christ returning to Earth, battling with the Antichrist to help save humanity.
Let's see, the Magic Order, that's listed as a title for comics. That's the comics. That's
Prodigy is a movie that's supposed to be coming out. It's Prodigy. It was be the first major Millar World movie out of Netflix, according to Millar, in early 2022. It does not give a release date on that.
Okay.
They're also, like I said, they're doing Super Crooks. I mentioned that. Supposedly it's gonna be an anime, but it sounds like they were originally going to do a live action project.
Oh, here it is. The Magic Order. They're going to start. So their new comics are coming out, but they they were starting production just before COVID. It got shut down, so they had to like come up with a whole new production team, and they're going to start shooting this year. So this Magic Order series of his is going to become
And that's going
produced.
to be a series. And they said the first season is going to be the first volume. And Millar said earlier this year that it is now back in production again. They have an untitled spy series, which is probably tied around the Kingsman series called Reborn, which is a movie. But again, a lot of this stuff, it says it's all in development.
Yeah.
There's only like 2 or 3 there, but they made it sound now. COVID, of course, slowed things down in this, and they got a whole list of stuff. I'm not gonna go through everything. But the Jupiter one was good. I liked that one a lot. I enjoyed the series. It was an interesting take on basically a lot of a version of their Justice League and stuff like that. And
it almost felt like DC's Kingdom Come in a way.
Yes,
like the retired superheroes have to rise back up, and kind of the passing of the baton to the younger heroes. I thought I felt it dragged a little bit, the series, but I loved the concept. I loved the characters, and I was looking forward to seeing how it develops. Usually season 2 is much better. Like I said before, they'll find their voice, figure out what didn't work and what worked from season 1, and make adjustments. And I thought there was a lot of potential there.
Yeah, and Millar World was for Netflix replacing when they were losing the Marvel contract.
Right.
As that was expiring and Disney Plus is coming out, and they're taking all those series away from them in terms of production and that. So they were creating this new thing. But again, I know COVID kind of slowed things up, but there's just not a lot going on with that right now. And
Which is interesting because during COVID, yes, you couldn't do shooting and stuff, but in development stuff, you could do from home and over Zoom calls.
Yeah.
So
I think some of that
forward?
I think a lot of that did happen, but it's just one of those things too. There, when things did come out, it's like last year the Jupiter's comes out, and it was like, oh well, we don't like it, so we're canceling it. It's not going to go forward. And part of their reasoning behind it, they said, was cost.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also, and we've been hearing a lot of stuff in the last year about Netflix losing subscribers, costs, cutting things down. I think that's all just typical stuff of there. She's like, this is why we're going to cancel certain things and get rid of it. Is just we'll blame it on reduction in subscribers. That's why they keep threatening to get rid of people that share the codes and stuff like that. Realistically, they don't care. Personally, it's like this. It's some of that stuff I'm like, I bought the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things on Blu-ray. Release it. If you like these series are good, a year after they've been out on streaming, release them on Blu-ray and make some money that way. Because a lot of us would buy them when we don't have access to the internet,
right?
Just to have copies of them here. So, but yeah, I think a lot of it is, it's not so much superhero fatigue. It's just good storytelling fatigue. Bad storytelling fatigue. They're tired of crappy movies, and it's not just superheroes. It's everything.
Well, and what Marvel has to be careful of, going back to it, is like, I think this was something that happened to the Arrowverse, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
There is a balance between giving fans want to consume a certain amount of product, and you want to give it to them, but you want to hold back just a little bit to keep them hungry. And part of the problem is if you overdo the stories, even if you're given the content that they want quantity wise, you yourself as a story writer will only have so many stories to tell. And if you put them all out over the course of 30 different stories all at one time, things are going to start getting repetitive. You're going to run out of ideas. And people are going to be going, oh, didn't they already do that in Iron Man? Didn't they already do that in Captain America? So you got to be careful not to blow your wad, so to speak, with all the story concepts up front.
Problem too is they were creating all these movies. Like I tried to watch this one on Hulu called Gold with Zac Efron last night. I had to shut it up about 20 minutes and it was bad. And it's just because you could tell they shot it to be this like desolate, in Australia, COVID, restrictions, stuff like that. So not many actors in it. It was just, they supposedly these 2 drifters, whatever, they're crossing the desert, and they find this giant, largest piece of gold you're ever going to see. And of course, the one has to go and fight through everything to get an excavator and come back. And I was just like, oh, this is just stupid.
Yeah.
It just was not fun.
Well, speaking of Hulu, you got Prey coming out, the new Predator movie coming out this Friday, right?
Yes. And they did a screening at San Diego. I did not see it at San Diego, but
the early reviews are phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And it's not an origin story of the Predators. It's the Predators' first time on Earth doing a hunt. Right. So it'll be a little different looking, stuff like that, because it's set 500 years prior to the Schwarzenegger But it shows that the predators as a race have been around a lot longer than what we thought.
Or does Arnold use time travel as the Terminator to go
I will
back in
shut that
time
crap
to
off.
fight?
I will shut it off if it's time travel and Arnold shows up. That's just the stupidest thing.
He'll
That's
say,
just
"You're
stupid.
one ugly mf'er."
Yeah, that's stupid. If they did that, no, I would not watch that. Tired of time travel crap. It's too overused. So, but I am looking forward to this one here, and we got the new trailer for Andor.
Oh yes, let's watch that.
All right, so here we go.
Everyone, be quiet.
To steal from the Empire? To just walk in like you belong? They're so proud of themselves, so fat and satisfied. They can't imagine that someone like me would ever get inside their house. Cassian Andor. The Empire is choking us so slowly. We're starting not to notice. What I'm asking is this. Wouldn't you rather give it all to something real? I need all the heroes I can get.
For the greater good.
Call it what you will.
Let's call it war.
There's fermenting out there, son. Pockets of fermenting. You're in my net. Are you a fish? Or are you a thief? You're slipping. I'm not slipping. I've just been hiding for too long. As long as everyone thinks I'm an irritation, there's a good chance they'll miss what I'm really doing.
What are you really doing?
This is what revolution looks like.
I'm tired of losing.
Looking good.
Wow, a 3 premiere now, September 21st. Originally, it was August.
Yeah, they pushed it back a little bit. That song kind of reminds me of what's it called? The Games, the Asian series where everybody gets killed in the games. What was that big one? Squid Games.
Oh, okay.
The theme song that
Yep.
makes me think of that.
Well,
But,
we saw some
loving
cool
it.
things in that trailer, though. We saw some vehicles that are still clone era.
Yeah,
So we'll have a little bit
we're
of
in the
that.
crossover period.
Yeah.
So
we
this is
saw
all
the
before
Senates.
episode 4 for people who don't understand the jumping back and forth timeline.
Yeah, it's good. We're going to see stuff that covers like post Revenge of the Sith, since they show him younger. So it's going to cover him all the way up prior to Rogue One. And my understanding is 2 seasons, 12 episodes each season. And they'll end it there because it ties right into Rogue One. And we get this great filler for in between the 2 trilogies and that. So just excited about that. Love the way it looked. And they went back to more practical effects too, they said.
Yes, it's looking phenomenal. I got really excited when I first saw the trailer because there's one character they show. I thought it was Sam Witwer, which plays Starkiller in the video games, and this would be the right time frame. But I looked it up on IMDb, and it's not Sam Witwer. So I'm like, oh, is that him? It looks like him.
Well, I wasn't sure. I was surprised they could bring in Forrest Whitaker as playing Saw Gerrera.
That's the thing about Star Wars, which is just amazing. Even though they've been out since 1977, like the Emperor, we still get the same actor back, and all these people, and it just works. Mon Mothma, she was in the prequels, this actress, and she came back for the Rogue One. She's coming back for the series. Like, there's such a loyalty with the actors with coming back for these different roles, and it just makes the universe that much richer.
We've both met quite a few of them over the years doing the different conventions and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you this, a few I've talked to, some of past, like a couple of the guys from the original 1977 that played Emperor people. They said, yeah, I did that movie. I did a bunch of other stuff that nobody knows about, but I've been able to ride that coattail forever and make a living on that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because we're all fans of that stuff.
I would so be happy if I could just be a background character, a stormtrooper, where you never see my face. I would milk that at every convention I ever could. I have the poster up and say I was in Star Wars, and I'd have a line just because of that.
Yep. So I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of that. Some of the shows with the guys that were all in the first season of Mandalorian that were all 501st guys.
Well, I think because they're not actually like us. We go and we set up, so we could totally milk that, because we'd be there anyways.
Yeah. So
I'd have little 8x10 little headshots.
Yeah. So everybody be prepared. Starting at the end of September, we'll be doing our weekly and/or wrap up. The week after it airs, we will not be doing same day stuff. If it's going to be on, I didn't see what day it was, but I think it's the 21st, wasn't it?
I thought it was the 21st.
Yeah. So and it's going to be a 3-episode release, which is nice because that's pretty cool. So that's going to be a Wednesday. Looking forward to that.
Before we go, too, we won't have time to talk about it, but another superhero-based series is that Sylvester Stallone one, where he plays the retired superhero, the Samaritan. Did you see that?
I saw a little bit on that. I haven't watched the trailer on that yet.
The trailer looks great. Here, Samaritan.
Yeah.
Stallone trailer. It looks good to me, and I think he's
let's pop it up real quick.
Okay, I think this is it. Hold on, let me share. I'm looking forward to this.
I know a lot of the news lately. It's all been him trying to get rights back to Rocky.
Yeah, they're milking it. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Ben got robbed downtown yesterday.
Wait a minute. What?
That's a 2019.
2019. So this must have been a concept or something, or one of those fan-made ones. Okay, remove that. Stop. Where is the actual Samaritan? I didn't realize there was something from 2019. Stallone Samaritan. I'll put 2022. Here we go.
Did you find it?
I found it.
Okay.
Get through this ad before I share it. Okay, now I can share. Here we go.
Wait up, wait up. What are you doing with all this junk?
Keep me busy.
Another long night of crime and violence.
Some say it's only a matter of time before the city implodes.
I think we're finished here. Go on, beat it.
I found him. Samaritan.
Samaritan died 25 years ago.
That's what they say.
You think you live across from a superhero? Do you have a therapist, kid?
Kid. Samaritan's dead. I pick up garbage for a living, pal.
Samaritan cleans up the streets.
You mind your business, I'll mind mine.
I don't believe you! Are you okay?
I'm cool.
How strong are you?
Not as strong as I once was. Things start to fall apart when you stop carrying. And I stopped carrying a long time ago.
How come you hate who you are?
For some people, it's too late to change the damage they've done. He's hiding something. I want him dead. Really?
The things you buried tend to haunt you.
Why did you disappear?
Hey, old man! Try this.
So there it is.
Yeah, I was looking up, and there was a Samaritan comic series in the '90s, but this is not the same
Not the
one.
same.
So
Okay.
I can tell. Yeah, this is.
Is this an original by
Here we go.
Stallone?
It says this is no Samaritan is adapted from comic book of the same title published by Mythos Comics.
Okay.
So yeah, I assume it's based on a comic. 'Cause, I mean, it's
Yeah.
got all the feels of that. I liked it. It's going to be a movie at the end of the month on Prime. So
Well, and the thing is, Stallone, even though he's in his 70s, is doing an amazing job. And side note to all you people, that generation of 30 and under, the 70-year-olds are putting you to shame. You guys, you got to step it up.
he's kept himself in shape. He's like 76 now, and he started doing that. I mean, he always stayed in shape, but he really got himself back in when he wanted to do the Creed movie. He was doing the new Rambo, last two Rambo movies, which the last one really sucked, but the one before that wasn't bad.
But he can still do moves and not look like an old man.
Yes.
Whereas, like, even Schwarzenegger, you're starting to see it. Like, his movement isn't smooth.
I think the difference is you had Stallone, who worked out for the movies to have a different, more of a kind of like how The Rock does. Now, Rock's bigger, but it's all a different type of workout versus trying to be a bodybuilder that Stallone was. Schwarzenegger was a bodybuilder that was all about the poses and everything else, but it wasn't about the form in terms of athleticism.
Yeah, but I think the problem with Schwarzenegger was he became governor, and for about 4 or 6 years, he was doing almost no working out. He got out of shape during that time, and he started getting back into shape. But I think at his age, it's hard. Once you lose something, it's hard to get it back. Whereas Stallone kept it the whole time. He works hard to not lose it.
Yeah,
and I think that was the major difference. And ever since Schwarzenegger came back from being a governor, it's not been the same.
Right.
So,
well, this looks good. And again, super fatigue. I'm not seeing it because this looks like a good story.
I can't wait to see it. I hope it's as good as the trailer looked.
Yeah.
The bad guy in that looks like he's like a Kiefer Sutherland wannabe from Lost Boys.
Which, by the way, I think it was something. I think it was like 35 years ago now that came out. So
wow, 35 years,
something like that. So crazy.
Surprised they haven't remade that one.
I've seen stuff over the years that there's been like rumors they want to, but I think they don't know how to because that's such a people still love it, but it's such an 80s feel of a movie that if they try to make it now, they try to make it grittier. They try to.
That's why you don't try to remake it. Just keep it in the universe. Tell a new story in that universe.
Yeah, well, I mean, they killed off all the characters when they killed the head vampire because that was part of their mythos was kill the head vampire and then everybody else.
Yeah, so you have a new head vampire from even farther back.
Yeah.
And there's new Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Lost Boys Next Generation.
Yeah, no, just create something completely new. No need to remake great classic stuff like that. So, cool. Hey, this is a fun show. We covered quite a bit.
Good times.
So, everybody, take care.
I'm going to see Bullet Train this week. I think.
Oh, is that out this week? Okay.
Out this week. So, probably see that. So, I'll mention it next week, assuming I see it. But the plans are we're going to go see it. That's the one with Brad Pitt. Looks fun.
That looks good. I may try to go see that. I thought it was still a couple weeks out. I may try to go see that myself.
Yeah. So other than that, though, not much else that I can think of.
Nope.
So
That's kind of where I'm at too. So it's a couple weeks. I'll be in Colorado Springs for those that follow us for out there.
yeah, it's right around
Kevin
the
will be there
corner.
with Bardstone stuff. We'll have all the Bardstone comics, and then we'll let you know some other future stuff going on too. So everybody,
good.
take care, and I will send us out of here.